back, everyone, for another deep dive. This time, we're looking at Project Stargate.
Oh, interesting.
It's kind of a new initiative. I mean, it's been in the news for a while now.
Okay.
But it's aimed at building a massive AI infrastructure here in the U.S.
I see.
We're talking about data centers, research facilities, the whole shebang.
Wow.
And it comes with a hefty price tag. A $500 billion investment.
$500 billion. That's a serious commitment.
It is, but there's been a twist. Google, one of the, well, you could say the main players involved, has decided to back out.
Really? Wow, I hadn't heard that.
Yeah. So today, we're going to dig into what this project is all about, why Google might have made this, well, unexpected move, and what it all could mean for the future of AI. What do you think?
Sounds like a plan. Yeah, it's definitely a fascinating development, especially when you consider how Project Stargate even began. This wasn't some quiet little tech project, it was announced with a lot of hype during President Trump's second term. He was joined by some big names from the tech world. Larry Ellison from Oracle, Masayoshi Son of SoftBank, and Sam Altman from OpenAI. The message was pretty clear. They were making this a top priority.
Yeah, it's like they were aiming for that shock and awe effect. Announcing a $500 billion project right off the bat. I remember seeing the headlines and just thinking, whoa, okay, they're not messing around.
Exactly, yeah. And the initial plan, it was incredibly ambitious. They were talking about building data centers all across the country, boosting U.S. AI capabilities to compete with China. And, of course, creating jobs, over 100,000 American jobs, to be exact. It was presented as a way to, I guess you could say, stay ahead in technology, but also give the economy a jolt. They even started construction on the first data center down in Abilene, Texas. And other companies jumped on board, too, like MGX and NVIDIA.
Sounds like they were ready to hit the ground running.
Yep.
So where did things start to, I don't know, maybe fall apart a bit?
Well, one of the first signs of trouble kind of came out of left field. It was Elon Musk. He's got his own skin in the AI game with Tesla and Neuralink. He publicly questioned if SoftBank could actually deliver on their huge funding promise. They'd initially pledged $100 billion, which later, get this, grew to $500 billion over 4 years.
Wow.
Yeah. Musk basically said they didn't have the money to back it up, pointing to their history of making some risky investments, the whole Vision Fund situation, and some recent losses they'd had.
That's a good point. It's like if you went all in with your savings on a single stock, even if it looks promising, there's a lot of risk there. SoftBank has had some successes, of course, like their investment in Alibaba, but they've also had some, let's say, less successful ventures.
Right, exactly.
Well,
and though the Project Stargate people tried to downplay those worries, saying the funding was all secured, those doubts kind of stuck around. Then, boom, Google announces they're pulling out.
So let's talk about Google. They were, everyone expected them to be a major part of this, right? Not just financially, but because of their technical know-how. They're at the forefront of AI. And they have so much experience building and running these huge data centers. Why walk away from something this big?
It's the million-dollar question. There are a few theories going around, and it's probably a mix of different things. One of the biggest, I think, is Google's own big investment in their AI model, Gemini. They're putting tons of resources into developing it and integrating it into almost everything they do, search, ads, Chrome, the works. They even have this new AI assistant called Duet AI, all powered by Gemini. It seems like they're going all in on this being, their main AI technology.
So maybe contributing to Project Stargate felt like they'd be helping out a competitor, especially with OpenAI being so involved, another big player in the AI field. It'd be like sharing your secret recipe, right?
That's a good way to put it. Plus, Google's also investing a ton of money, $75 billion, I think, in expanding their own AI infrastructure.
Right.
So maybe they decided they'd rather, do their own thing, build their AI empire on their own terms instead of sharing resources through Stargate.
I see. But it makes you wonder, was there any pressure within Google itself? Weren't there some worries about how their AI tech could be used?
Oh, yeah. There have been some debates, even public criticism, about some of Google's past projects, like Project Nimbus, their cloud computing contract with the Israeli government. Employees raised concerns about the technology potentially being used for surveillance and military stuff.
So maybe with Project Stargate and its potential military applications, Google decided the risks were just too high.
It's possible. And we can't forget about the financial side. After Google announced their huge increase in AI spending, their stock actually dipped. Investors might be getting nervous about the costs of all this, pushing Google to be a bit more careful with their investments. Project Stargate, with all its question marks, might have just seemed like too much of a gamble.
So let's recap. We've got SoftBank's financial stability up in the air, Google leaving this huge gap, and the potential for these ethical concerns to, well, kind of loom over the entire project. Sounds like Project Stargate's in a pretty shaky position.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It definitely raises some serious questions about its future. But here's what's interesting. While some players are backing off, others are stepping up. Have you heard of Deepseek?
I have, actually.
Yeah.
They've been making headlines lately. Isn't that a Chinese AI firm that's kind of shaking things up with their new technology?
Exactly. They've developed what they call the R1 reasoning model. It's cheaper to develop and run compared to what the big companies are doing, but it's proving to be incredibly effective. And that's causing ripples throughout the whole tech world.
So, while Project Stargate's struggling, this new company comes in, seemingly out of nowhere, and changes the game. That's a pretty wild turn of events.
It is. And it raises some interesting questions about how the whole AI landscape is evolving. We'll dig into that a bit more in just a moment.
Things change so fast in the tech world. It's kind of crazy. One minute you have this massive government project like Stargate, and the next, a company like Deepseek appears and potentially changes everything. Makes you wonder if these huge initiatives, these centralized things, are even the way to go anymore.
Yeah, it's a good question. And DeepSeek, well, their success is a perfect example of how a smaller, more nimble company can really disrupt things. They saw an opening, developed a solution that was both powerful and cost-effective, and now they're taking on the giants. It's like, well, the classic David and Goliath story, but with AI algorithms instead of a slingshot.
Exactly. So for our listeners out there, think about it. Are there opportunities like this in your own fields, where the old ways of doing things might be ready for a shakeup? Could there be a DeepSeek waiting to happen in your industry? But let's get back to Stargate for a minute. Remember, part of the reason for it was to counter China's growing AI ambitions. With Google out of the picture, does that weaken the U.S. position?
It's definitely a concern. This competition between the U.S. and China for tech leadership, it's intense, and AI is right at the center of it. Project Stargate was, well, it was supposed to be a way for the U.S. to, really assert itself. But now, without Google, it's not so simple.
Yeah, it's like the U.S. trying to build this, this fortress to protect its tech advantage, but then one of the main builders walks away. It sends a mixed message for sure.
It does, and it makes you think, are there other things at play here? Besides just the technical and financial stuff, we talked about those ethical concerns surrounding AI before. That's becoming more and more important, not just for these companies, but for all of us,
Right. We can't just keep building these powerful AI systems without thinking about what might happen. It'd be like giving someone a dangerous tool without any instructions or safety measures.
Exactly. And that's where regulations come in. Remember, the Trump administration, they rolled back some of the rules about AI oversight a while back. It was a controversial move. Some people said it would hurt innovation, while others were worried about the risks.
So fewer rules mean companies are pretty much free to develop AI however they want. But that also means there's more room for things to go wrong.
Right. Absolutely. And this is something Google might have considered when they decided to leave Stargate. Remember Project Nimbus, that cloud computing contract with the Israeli government? They got a lot of pushback for that.
Right. Employees were concerned about their technology being used for surveillance and military purposes. Caused a lot of tension within Google.
Exactly. So with Stargate having potential military uses and with less oversight, Google might have just decided it was too risky, for their reputation, for their ethics. Maybe it was just too much.
It's a tough call. You want to push AI forward, develop technologies that can help people, but you also have to think about the downsides. Make sure you're not creating something harmful.
It's a real balancing act. And each company has to figure out where that line is. Google, with everything they've been through, the public scrutiny, their own internal debates, they might be playing it safer than others.
And that could have a big impact on how these partnerships between the government and tech companies work in the future. If companies get nervous about working on these sensitive AI projects, it could slow down important developments, especially in things like national security.
True. We're already seeing this tension play out in this global AI race. The U.S. government wants to stay ahead, but it also needs to find ways to work with these companies without, crossing those ethical lines.
It's a complicated situation, that's for sure. No easy solutions. But we need to talk about it, explore the different angles, find a way to balance innovation and responsibility.
Couldn't agree more. And it's important to remember, technology is just one part of it. We need to be thinking about how AI will affect society, jobs, ethics, making sure the benefits reach everyone.
It's bigger than just building cool gadgets. It's about shaping the future we want. And that takes looking at the whole picture.
Well put. So as we head into the final part of this deep dive, let's turn to the economic side of things. Project Stargate. Well, it was supposed to be a big job creator, but with Google gone and its future uncertain, what does that mean for the U.S. economy? And what about AI replacing jobs through automation? These are big questions we need to tackle.
We've talked about the geopolitics, the ethics, and the rise of companies like Deepseek. But let's not forget about the economics of all this.
Yeah.
The impact of Project Stargate, or maybe its failure on the U.S. economy. That's a big one, right?
It is. It's a big unknown hanging over this whole thing. Remember, they were saying Stargate would be this economic powerhouse, creating over 100,000 jobs, boosting American innovation.
The idea was like technological progress and economic growth all in one. But now, with Google gone and those questions about SoftBank's money, well, those promises aren't looking so solid anymore.
Exactly. And then there's the sheer amount of money involved. $500 billion, that's a crazy amount, even for a project this big. Like building a skyscraper on, I don't know, a foundation of sand?
And even if they have the money, what about the ongoing costs? These data centers use a ton of energy, massive electricity bills, just to keep them running.
Right. That's often forgotten, the environmental impact of all this. It's like you try to solve one problem, falling behind in the AI race, and you might create a bunch of new ones along the way.
But what about the people who were, hoping to benefit from Stargate, the people who are counting on those new jobs?
Yeah, that was a big part of the appeal. 100,000 new jobs, that's a powerful message. Appeals to, well, both the economy and to, national pride. But now, with the project's future so uncertain, that's fading away.
It reminds me of something my cousin was saying. He just graduated, got a degree in data analytics. He's really into the whole AI thing, but he's also worried about finding a job.
Yeah.
You see those headlines about automation, and it makes you wonder, are the machines taking over?
It's a question a lot of people are asking these days. AI, it can create jobs, but it can also eliminate them. It's one of the biggest challenges we face, and it's not just in tech. AI is going to touch pretty much every industry in some way.
So what do we do? How do we, handle this change and make sure the benefits of AI are spread around, that people aren't left behind?
It's a tough one, but I think it starts with education and training. We need to give people the skills they need to succeed in a world where AI is everywhere. Invest in STEM education, promote lifelong learning, create opportunities for people to learn new skills, adapt their old ones.
It's like we have to adapt too, right? Just like those companies like Deepseek are shaking things up, we as individuals need to be ready to change, learn new things.
Absolutely. And it's not just about technical skills. We need to be creative, think critically, solve problems. Those are the things that make us human, the things that will let us use AI as a tool, not be replaced by it.
It's about finding that balance, embracing the possibilities of AI, but also being aware of its limits, making sure it works for us, not the other way around.
Well said. I think that's a good place to wrap things up. We've covered a lot today. From the excitement around Stargate at the beginning to the problems it's facing now, the new companies coming in, the ethical questions, the economic impact, it's been quite a ride.
It has. But hopefully our listeners have a better grasp of this whole AI thing now. It's complex and it's changing fast.
And as AI keeps developing, we'll be here to help you make sense of it all.
So stay tuned and keep exploring, everyone.